listeners, and welcome to another episode of Get Smartr, an LCE podcast. I'm super excited about today's episode. It's not every day that you get to talk to a 15-year consulting veteran who's gone back out into the wild and lives to tell about it. But today we do. We have Dave Berube. Dave Berube has over 35 years experience in leadership management and transformational change within organizations. For 15 years, he was with us at Lifecycle Engineering as a principal consultant, where he focused on helping public and private enterprises improve performance by implementing reliability excellence, lean, and change management. So Dave has assisted both national and international companies implement major change initiatives. He's coached senior leaders and managers in their roles. He is also a veteran. His experience was in the U.S. Navy's nuclear submarine force. So without further ado, I'm here to welcome my colleague, my friend, a mentor. Welcome to the podcast, Dave.
Hey, thanks, Tara. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. So today's episode, listeners, is going to focus on a real-life reliability excellence implementation. We're going to discover what it truly takes to build a culture of reliability and what are some critical success factors to actually implementing reliability excellence. It's just like the title of this episode says. Reliability excellence, full circle. Dave's going to talk about how he actually had to practice and implement the advice that he gave to others as a consultant. So let's just dive in, Dave. You've implemented reliability excellence, what we call RX, at many facilities, manufacturing facilities, power companies, you name it. You've been a consultant, and as a consultant, you have to lead through influence, right? Rather than authority. But as you were working at Morgan PLC, you were in charge of implementing reliability excellence. So can you tell us about your approach to this reliability excellence implementation, and how was it different as a manager than when you were, when you're directly accountable? You're not just coaching people through how to get these outcomes, but you're accountable for these outcomes. So can you talk to me about that?
Sure. So one thing you look at when you're the manager, you're also responsible for the day-to-day crisis,
Mm,
right, of what's happening in the plant, right? So you are a live plant manager, and you would say you're dealing with all the same distractions that any manager might have. So as a consultant, we try not to pay attention to those distractions. We know they're happening, but we don't feel them.
right.
So I got to feel all the distractions and catastrophic events that might happen. You might have a collapsed water line, or a massive power outage,
Wow.
hurricanes coming through, or all those type of things. You get to live it. So that absolutely was different. Now I will say there were a lot of similarities to consulting,
Hmm.
um, because I wasn't in charge of all the people that we were doing the implementation for.
Okay.
So really, this was, you could call, the plant was doing an operational excellence implementation. Um, and when I retired from the Navy in 2000, my first boss hired me to do it, to come in and run maintenance. And on the advice from LCE, they said to hire a Navy nuclear guy. And they hired me, and I
Amen.
came in and transferred, did a transformational change at Alcatel,
Hmm.
the fiber optic company in Claremont, North Carolina. So my boss was now in this plant. He was the operations, I guess, vice president of operations, I think might have been his title, of all the plants, in his region. And he was in charge of operational excellence. So
Hmm.
he didn't have really the maintenance and reliability piece, right? He had, a lean type person. He had maybe a lean methodology, but he didn't really have anybody to either analyze or attack the maintenance reliability piece, which again, for me, that's obviously, it's my bread and butter, of
Hmm.
doing that for many years. So I guess you could say my approach really was, I started as the consultant. I was still with LCE. April of 2022, I was brought in to do an assessment It was a very wasn't a complete reliability excellence assessment. It was focused on because they already kind of assessed, because it was interesting. We call it reliability excellence. You could call it operational excellence. It's all the same thing,
Right.
right? So I was focusing on the non-operations piece. I didn't dive deep into the engineering group. I didn't dive deep into the operations group. I was focused on maintenance, reliability, engineering, and then a little bit of the storeroom and how it impacted. They didn't want me to dive too deep in the storeroom, but I had to dive deep enough to see how it impacted
Sure.
maintenance and
W-
reliability. So it's kind of started did the gap
And work
analysis.
management, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
and
a lot
how
of
they're
work
managing their
management, but
work.
also reliability. But
Yeah.
you have to get into the storeroom to some level because it
Mhm.
impacts all of work management and reliability.
Mhm.
Um, and did the gap analysis, gave them, recommendations and kind of departed. But again, I end up coming back to work for them in September of that year to go and do the implementation myself. So I got hired in September and do the implementation. So I had a gap analysis. I could see what the gaps were.
Dirty
Um,
laundry.
Yep. And what's interesting is like a lot of previous clients with LCE, this client I would say was excellent at
Oh.
doing reactive maintenance.
Oh.
So believe it or not, if you're in a reactive environment, you can become very good at it.
Sure.
Right? You learn how to respond fast. You learn how to fix things fast. You may not always fix it right, but you can fix it fast. And what comes with some of those habits of fixing it fast are secret part stashes, right? In toolboxes and little hidey holes somewhere where, oh, they go to the store and we don't have any. Well, wait a minute. I know where there's one. Then somebody will rummage through the plant, find one, come in and save the day. So they were, very good at being reactive and very responsive. So very typical client, and trying to get them to shift into, hey, let's go do a little different mindset, because what comes with reactive maintenance is the higher cost of reactive maintenance, right? We
Mhm.
preach that reactive maintenance is 3 times the cost of proactive maintenance, and they have very highest maintenance costs of the entire company. We're at
Okay.
this facility. So again, very reactive, responsive, could get production, but there was definitely things
But
lack.
eating their own lunch. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's but at least it was recognized that things weren't right. OpEx was going to come in, so they were going to improve pretty much the whole plant, including the maintenance. So at least there was some understanding that things weren't quite right, right, and there at least
Okay.
was a path forward. So now what's interesting is, we call it reliability excellence. And to me, I don't care what you call it. We've been with clients, they call it all kinds of stuff. What was it Bosch production system? What was Alcoa business system? Everyone has their
Mhm.
own name for it. Some people, is very similar to TPM.
Sure.
Let's just say a true TPM program, not the autonomous maintenance piece. Let's just say the overall TPM program. Well, and we didn't choose TPM because they called their autonomous maintenance TPM. Right. So
I
we
see.
couldn't use that
Okay.
term because people didn't think that TPM had anything to do with proactive maintenance. They thought it was just operator care or operator maintenance.
Right.
So our group, and I said, look, you guys can call it what you want, right? Call it Fred. I don't care. Pick something. Well, they decided based on the education given, they wanted to call it RCM. Hey, fine, we're going to call it RCM. Right. So this was our RCM implementation, which again for us, it's all the same thing, right?
But
It's
if
an
they name
improvement.
it, then they own it. That's part of change
Yes,
management, right? That's part of that mindset you were talking
absolutely.
about.
It's like it's more important that they own the name and they understand. So that was kind of the approach. And now when you look at how do we break it apart, I would say it's the classic people,
Mhm.
processes, and technology. Right, those are the big three. I think most consulting firms, including LCE, kind of looks at those big three things,
Right.
and that was kind of my approach there. So from a people side, I have to make sure I got the right people in the right place with the right job description, what job is it you're supposed to do, and get that in place.
So
So
it's setting that expectation.
correct. Didn't have any planners, so I had to stand up planners. We
I
were
mean,
able,
yeah.
yeah, we hired one planner. We were able to actually get a planner, an
Okay.
experienced planner scheduler from another facility. But again, as we've seen before, planner schedulers are hard to come by,
Mhm.
right? People get them, they don't want to let go of them. So we had to then create a planner scheduler from within the ranks. So we did send somebody to LCE's planner scheduler training. Um, and,
Excellent.
and something else is, even though I can teach every aspect of LCE's training, I could have trained them myself, but there's the value of having them go to a public class, um, and be in a classroom with their peers.
Right, with people who are maybe struggling with the same challenges.
Exactly. And so they find that they're not alone, right? They're
You're
just like
right.
everybody else, same
You're right.
struggle. And it gives it's another way for them to, again, get some buy-in. So it's not just, well, Dave told us this. Hey, this is what I learned. This is what other organizations are seeing and feeling. And that's why. And again, for me, I'm not going to beat up other classes, but for me, face to face is so important. If you can do face to face, it is the absolute best training you can do. Right, side by side with your peers. I actually
Mhm.
prefer doing it in Charleston.
Ah,
Um,
that's a shameless plug for the Life Cycle Institute
for the
listeners.
institute, better food, some good
Charleston
food in
is a nice
Charleston.
place.
Greenville's
Yeah.
pretty good too. I'll go with Greenville too.
Yes.
As two good spots. But face to face was definitely helpful for especially for the person that I sent to class. So, focus
Well,
on
and
the
you
people.
can't do everything, right? You have to know what you can trust and what you can delegate and make that a program, right? Because the training is part of the change management as well, right? And about building your program.
Yeah, and again,
Yeah.
getting the buy-ins, how people
Getting the
learn
buy-in.
matters. Which is why it's so valuable to get the people, some real training. Um, my reliability engineer was doing, I would say, dabbling in reliability engineering, but he kind of reported to the engineering group, and he ended up doing a lot of engineering projects. So I was able to pull him out of the engineering group and get him. And his first shock for him was when I put him in charge of all loss elimination activities, which kind of blew his mind. He didn't really, it was kind of a struggle, but hey, that is your role,
Yeah.
right? Is you own loss elimination,
Darn
right?
right.
This whole package of what we owe. Every plant tries to do cost savings every year. It's like, this is your baby. Obviously, we're not going to leave you hang out to dry, but you got to understand this. You have to own this.
That's your focus. Yeah.
Right. So that was his focus. So we started again. We started building the org structure, to make sure we have that. So again, the people, you got to get the right people in the right place. All right, making sure we got the right supervisors in place. We got the right, let's say, crew leads in place, the crew sizes, the maintenance management. We want to make sure we got all the right players. Where we so we got to focus on the people side. Now, also with the people side was training.
Mm-hmm.
There really was no maintenance training. It's you brought somebody in, they had some skills, and that they learned just on the job. So I did create an apprenticeship program with the state of Georgia, which is a U.S. Department of Labor program, not that hard to do. And we created an apprenticeship program. And an apprenticeship program was not only to bring in an apprentice, it was to set minimum standard expectations for what I expect you to be able to do as, let's say, the minimum requirements to be a maintenance person. So we
Excellent.
were multi-craft. So
Mm-hmm.
hey, when you finish the program for an apprentice, these are the skills I expect you to have. Boom, you're now, let's say, a journeyman maintenance technician. At that point, we call them level two. At the same time, now that I had level two expectations, I then said, okay, for those of you who want more, here's the requirements to be a level three, and then here's the requirements to be a level four. A lot of employees will ask for more money, but I'm like, okay, that's nice, but what additional skills do you bring to
Right.
the table? So we identified the skills we needed, for the different levels. So very clear path. Again, focusing on the people. What skills do I need? What support training can I get? And try to set that up. So that's kind of the
Excellent.
people side. Processes, they're like most, they really didn't have any formal processes. Everything was kind of winging it. So we created formal processes. We did the process mapping.
Hmm.
Um, we mapped all processes for work management, right? Identifying, creating work, approving work, planning it, scheduling it, closing it out, right? The whole 9 yards. We did the same thing for the reliability engineering processes,
Great.
right? For criticality, um, for doing
Maintenance
building the
strategies,
yeah,
FMEAs.
strategies, building the PM program,
Yep.
PM optimization, root cause analysis, management of change. And then we also did processes for the storeroom, along with all the processes, right? Step definitions, RASI charts, right? Who does what. And the other one, the bigger one, is audits, right?
Okay.
What are all the audits that I need to verify we're doing, right? Kind of on a plan, do, check, act. How can I
Right.
check to make sure I'm doing those things? So that's really the audit cards. And then all the support documents required, um, priority codes, job plan,
Hmm.
templates, just
Templates.
everything you
Yeah.
possibly need to do all those activities, right? That's kind of like the process of how are we going to do these things.
Yep. That's the infrastructure.
Yep.
Hmm.
And then the next one is technology, right? We know the technology is important. We had a CMMS system that was probably not implemented quite the best.
Hmm.
So we didn't even have failure codes. So that
Mm.
was something that it's okay. We got to get one. We got to have discipline to using the CMMS system, because people would, I would say, do work without a work order, right?
Mm.
Or they might do it with the improper work order. So I didn't have asset history of everything that got done. So we again have to correct that. That's a technology piece. We have to correct that. In the middle of all this, we had a cyber attack,
Oh no.
which put us on a paper work order system for probably 5 months.
Wow.
5 months. So
Welcome
again,
to the 90s.
yeah. So again, as we're trying to do this, transformational change, we're
Sure.
about
Oh
to say
no.
we had to do stuff on paper. We got back up and running. We were able to get
But
now I
that
can get
still
the
instills
failure
the
codes.
discipline, right?
Yep.
That's a
And I got failure
discipline.
codes in the new in the CMMS system. We got so we were doing failure codes on paper. We got the
Okay.
failure codes into the system. So having your CMMS functional is critical.
Hmm.
And the company's going to D365. So I was kind of part of helping them come up with, okay, how are we going to do it the new way
Right.
in D365?
Start off
Um,
right.
yeah, start off right. But that technology piece is huge. The other one, from a technology piece, we also look at how we do our work. So, from a maintenance department, you can't ask people to do precision maintenance without the proper tools, right?
Right.
Torque wrenches, belt tensioning gauges,
Hmm.
laser alignment equipment, right? We've got to give people, if you need a tool to do the job, I'm going to get you the right tool. I go to too many plants that use screwdrivers, channel locks, and a crescent wrench, and that's their day-to-day tool, right? That's not maintenance. Trying to get them, there's a proper way to do maintenance. So let's get them the equipment and the tools to do that. Now, interesting for technology, they were already doing oil analysis, um, but that was really about it. So we brought in thermography, because that's probably the fastest, cheapest thing you could bring in. I just happen to have at my desk here. I've got the little FLIR
Oh, look
uh,
at that.
thermographic imager for my phone.
So that's infrared, folks, right
Yeah,
there.
infrared on my phone. But we went and bought an infrared gun. I forget the price, but I was able to expense it. So most people understand that. Some love, hey, I could expense that and got that pretty quick. But we had to put a capex in to get in the ultrasound equipment.
So that's interesting. So you had to do a capital, capital project, capital request. I mean, do you think do you think your skills Like, what skills as a consultant helped you know how the right things to do, or how did you navigate being on that end, being the one that has to make the business case for the capital expense? What do you think helped you um navigate those issues as a
Well, I
manager?
think the first one is really, from the consulting is we can't underestimate the power of establishing a vision.
Okay.
You got to be able to tell people where you're trying to go. You got to paint the picture of the future and explain to people in the future. But and for some people is like vibration analysis. I had the vibration analysis on my first submarine that was built in the 1950s. Okay. It might have been using vacuum tubes, but it was still vibration analysis. So hey, we got to get people understanding that hey, doing things like vibration analysis, thermography, ultrasonics, oil analysis, precision balancing, and precision alignment is what the good companies do.
Right.
Now, I did have some employees who did live in that realm before, so at least you had some employees that say, "Yeah, he's right. We had that at my last job." We didn't have all of it. We might have had this or that. So you had some people that were, you could say, the early adopters that, hey, they helped repeat the vision. So, and this really, when you talk about vision, it goes to communication, right? You're out there. It's one thing to have the vision. Can I communicate the vision, make a shared vision?
Shared vision, shared goal. What the true north, some people
Yep.
call that.
And you'll have some people, but remember, I don't need everybody believing it. I just need a critical
You just
mass.
need enough.
So because the other thing you deal with that you realize from consulting is you're dealing with a paradigm.
Hmm.
The client, and this is to be fair to them, this is how they've lived. Some of them their entire career, right? There's some people that started this job out of high school and been doing it for 30 years, and they've been told they've been doing a great job, and they've never seen right thermography or ultrasonics or ever use a torque wrench. I mean,
Yeah.
this is just how people lived and worked. So you're painting a picture to them that's completely foreign. So, and on their behalf, you could say, well, we've been successful doing it this way. And you guys said, well, you can be more successful if
Right.
we do it a different way. So we got to create the vision. We got to be able to communicate, and we got to be able to prove it to people. And that's probably also goes with communication is, and you could even argue with dealing with your stakeholders, is that when we have a win, we've got to be able to connect the dots and show people the win. Hey, we did this, it resulted in this. You can't assume that they'll see it themselves.
Mhm.
You've got to point it out, because I guarantee if it doesn't go right, they will point it out to you.
Right. And it'll be the fault of the program, but you got to
Right.
celebrate those wins. Well, how did you do that? How did you measure the success of your efforts and communicate that to the team so they stay motivated? How'd you do that?
Well, I think part of it goes with how well you, let's just go from your cost saving program, is when you do cost savings, do you connect the dots, improve your cost savings? Right? Can you show that you saved downtime or you saved dollars? So if you already have those habits, let's say being instilled, all right, you can kind of now say, okay, we're going to do this. And now you can show that cause and effect relationship between we did this activity, here are the results. So as we pick an asset and we focus on the reliability of the asset, and you see that downtime of the asset go down significantly, we say, see, so
It
we
works.
took
Yeah.
downtime. We took downtime for, they identified critical equipment. They said these are the pieces of equipment or production lines that we want you to really focus on, and we got downtime less than 2%. Less
Wow.
than 2% downtime. A couple months they were at 1%. downtime for some of these production lines. So again, proving to them that, look, see that this is working. Our ultrasonic that we did get now, and that's interesting, is, I'm trying to convince accounting, and finance people to give me some money. I want to say it was about 25 grand, I think, for the ultrasonic equipment. So we got to tell them, we got to go show them, look, here's some failures. Had we had ultrasonics, and even then you're trying to show almost like a cost avoidance, but it paid for itself in the first 3 months. It was that, you know that
Impactful. Yeah,
if
that's
you think about when we're dealing, I know people familiar with the PF curve, is, how much notification do I have before a failure? And the plant was mostly running to failure, fixing it fast. And we were trying to say, hey, we need a little more early detection, early detection. And we were able to show that early detection gave us time to be able to make decisions and not have a catastrophic failure. And
right.
and even then, as you maybe try to push the edge of, well, how long can I run it? Well, at least you're in control now, right? Rather than we're in no control. Yeah, hey, we're going to push the limit. Can we go through the next production run? I don't know, we might be able to. We'll keep an eye on it, and if we have to pull the trigger, we'll just tell you, look, you can't wait no more. You got to make
Right.
a change. So I
That's
think,
intentional, and then you can still do your work planning that's not reactive, right? That's not
so people
firefighting.
definitely saw that our use of technology was making a positive impact on the organization. Even the fact that, let's say, we're doing precision balancing and now the equipment is not failing as fast. Even something as simple as belt tensioning
Mhm.
is giving us improved uptime. So it was definitely a fun implementation.
Well, what would you say? So you set the expectations, you got the people, you got the process, you added the technologies. So what would you say are some strategies that once you're seeing the results and you're continuing to improve, how do you sustain that? How do you keep the program going? Get people interested in continuous improvement as they're implementing reliability excellence or RCM or TPM, ABC, what
Yeah.
have you. How
Well,
do
and
you do
you
that?
could say, as you still have the reactive crashes of the plant happening on a week to week basis,
Mm.
right? Because you're in a hole. We're trying to dig ourselves out of the hole. Well, the dirt's still falling on top of us at times,
Oh gosh.
and that's probably the challenge. So I think really communicating wins is everything, and the other one is you can't lose hope, right? And that's where you got to have. When we talk about, it can't just be me owning this here. I need more than just me, right? I got the maintenance manager on board, fully supporting it. My reliability engineer supporting it. I got the right key people, given the don't give up, right? Because you could say it's, 3 steps forward, maybe 1 step back. Maybe you get whacked really hard and you take 3 steps back, but you keep on moving forward. So I think that you could say discipline and determination
Mm.
is what it's going to take, because you're going to have some bad days,
Yeah.
right? You're going to, even though let's say I'm teaching people, let's say, how to do precision alignment, someone's going to do it wrong.
Mm.
And, well, we thought alignment was going to help. Well, people still make mistakes. They're still learning. So you just got to make sure you can't allow, um, especially the detractors who want you to fail.
And they're
Uh,
waiting for it, right?
they're waiting for it, and they're very loud and communicate a lot. You just can't let their voices kind of squash what you have. The other one is, and this is probably an important one for people, you can't be afraid to let people go that are not with the program. You can, and some people don't, well, that person's got, let's say, some of the best mechanical skill. Yes, but they're a cancer,
Mm.
right? They're the biggest, don't want to do this voice. They're the ones who don't want to do work orders. who don't want to check out parts properly,
Yeah.
right? Who want to do it their way, who want to make, we talk about changes without permission, want to modify the equipment, want to jury rig things. Um, be the same type of people might want to do something unsafe because it's faster. At some point, you just got to realize is, even though let's say this might be the most skilled person in the building, they're hurting you, right? The overall program. Now, and it may hurt a little bit when they go, because you were relying on their reactive abilities. But in the long run, I think as we lost some of the people who weren't with the program, our program got stronger. And we brought in more people who are with the program. So now when you hire people, we hire people that are with the program. And we look for
Right.
people that have already had a CMMS system.
Right. Right. So you're getting the believers in. You're getting the
Yes.
believers in.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I mean, we've talked about so much. We've talked about the people, process, and technologies, about where to start, about the importance of audits and coaching, about the importance of vision and communication. I know we've got some listeners out there who are considering building up their reliability program. Or I'm know there are folks out there who might be starting to lose hope. They're not getting the results that they want from an improvement program that they're trying to implement. Um, what advice would you give to those folks out there?
Um, well, you can also break it up into smaller wins. It's a big animal.
Right, right,
It's a
right.
big animal you're trying to tackle here. Again, with my experience with LCE, yes, I've been able to help implement all pieces of it. But let's assume you're not that skilled. Um, take a smaller piece.
Take a small, yeah, quick
Tackle
win.
it. Tackle the skills. So
Yeah,
for us, is rework was a problem. Well, let's tackle rework. Let's start measuring what our current amount of rework is. Let's find the root cause of why it failed again, why our repair didn't hold, and then solve that to root cause. So really just taking smaller pieces, rather than just being overwhelmed by the entire program. Now, the downside of smaller pieces, it takes longer to implement. We did a full court press, and even that, I tell people that's still a 3 to 5 year program.
okay.
Um,
So
so the
is rapid
question is,
implementation a reality? Can you do that? Or what does that mean, in real life?
well, it goes so for rapid implementation, yes, it's possible. However, you need people that are going to support the rapid so my boss who brought me in absolutely supported the rapid implementation, right? So remember, at the same time, we still had, you could say lean activities going on, loss elimination on production side was happening. So the whole plant was feeling the, improvement mindset,
Hmm.
having to plan, do, check, act. Okay, let's go find this problem, go solve it, reduce this loss, go to the next one. So I think you've got that mindset going. So, you got to set a target. Can we at least get an improvement project once per quarter? Can every part of the organization own, okay, what's your improvement project for this quarter?
Great.
Okay. And again, and get that one all the way to completion, and then choose another project and get it to completion. Um, but, for anybody, the start is still, you need to assess where you at. Where do I
Yes.
start?
What's your current state?
Yeah. That's probably the most important thing. Cause then at least if I'm going to go slow, I know what I'm going to start with first. I know
Hmm.
what I should potentially pick.
What
And,
your what your priorities could be. Yeah.
yeah. And at the
Because you
same
can't
time,
boil
there's
the
the
ocean.
there's
Yeah.
the common sense approach. Is even before an assessment, you can say, okay, what are we really bad at? What do we know? What do we all agree we're not good at? Let's go after that first. Oh, by the way, while we're doing that, let's bring someone in maybe to help us do an assessment. But I would say, the biggest advice I would give people, if you don't have the knowledge yourself, bring it in,
Yeah.
hire it or rent it, which would
Rent
be a
it. I like
consultant.
that because,
Uh,
yeah, I mean, it's that specialized focus, right? That you can rent.
yeah, and you just realize, I mean, there are people like me out there that have done this for a while and have been, but they're not as many as you think you'd like to have that may have lived it. Some people, after they've lived it, they don't want to go back again. They realize, man, that was a long journey. I'm not sure if I want to start at the beginning again. I kind of had to me, it was kind of exciting. It was kind of some you could say pleasure and be able to do the transformation from
Yes.
start to finish. But it's exhausting
Yeah.
to go from start to finish. And even for some organizations, maybe you bring in somebody that's kind of like your turnaround person. You bring them in for a couple years to turn it around. Somebody who has those skills, and then replace them with somebody to kind of maintain it.
Right.
So maybe
Right. But you're growing your own talent in the process, right? You're
right.
getting the people trained, you're getting them to where they're competent to manage the program.
Yeah. And that's something I was doing as from a people standpoint. I was trying to train more people. So I got two of my people CMRP certified through SMRP.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then we brought in actually brought in Ricky Smith. For those who might have heard of Ricky Smith, we brought him in to help get our guys CMRT certified, the technician
The
level.
technician level. Mm-hmm.
And I want to say we were up to half a dozen technicians that got CMRT certified. But I think I want to say we trained 10. And I think I'm going to say, let's say 5 or 6 went and got certified already. A couple are still scared. We'll get, hopefully,
No, but the
within six
certifications are
months.
important though, right? Because they symbolize your mastery, of the discipline.
And,
And it's something
and
to
it's
be
also a
proud of.
vision. Now they also have the vision.
And they have the vision. There you go. Wow. Well, Dave, I've really enjoyed our conversation today. I think our listeners have learned a lot about, at least I hope they have, about what it takes to truly implement a transformation in real life. And I want to thank you for sharing your story with us today and your
My pleasure.
advice and a little bit of the pain. And I think one thing I want our listeners to remember from the conversation, of course, all of the great guidance about, what to measure, how to get started, where to get started, but also don't lose hope, and keep the people who believe uh, near you and close and give them the tools they need to do the work that needs to be done. Right. So I just want to say thank you again, Dave, for joining us. And I hope you'll visit us again on the Get Smarter podcast. Next time we could talk about something different in reliability and maintenance. But listeners, if you would like to learn more about this topic, we'll have some resources in the episode notes. We'll also have Dave's LinkedIn profile, so you can check him out on LinkedIn and connect there. And again, Dave, thanks for joining me today on the Get Smarter podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me, Tara.
All right. So until next time, listeners, stay smarter, people.